Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus.
Past the neighbors along the block.
The Roman Republic became, so now you get to choose. He built it out of hickory bark.
Ooh, he does have a backbone.
Yep, he has a backbone. He's a vertebrate, so we gotta connect him to vertebrate. Welcome to another homeschool week with us. In this video, I show you moments throughout our week, how we do our morning devotional time, and some games and activities we do to practice the classical memory work for Cycle 1, Week 5. I also show you how I am instilling habits with my kids while they are young that we can expand on as they get older. For example, our morning devotional time can feel very scattered and hectic sometimes with 3 children 5 and under. However, when I feel like I can barely read a sentence or my kids are distracted by every little thing, I remind myself that we are forming this habit of reading the Bible together during breakfast. Once habits are formed, your kids expect them and you can expand on them as your kids get older. Later in this video, I also show you how I make bread for my kids instead of buying it at the store. I also share about our bedtime routine and how that has become a really special part of our day.
So today we're going to read from Genesis 7. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Then the Lord said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and all your households, for I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation."
The number 5. Yeah!
Take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals.
We are doing Lesson 5 in the Foundations of the Bible Study this week and learning more about Noah.
When they were all safely and it began to rain, and how it rained, water poured down from the skies and covered all the...
We read this sweet book together called Mrs. Noah's Doves by Jane Yolen. And while I read this, my girls color the activity pages from the Bible study. This has become a morning habit of ours. I read to my girls from the Bible study, and if time, a related book like this one, and they enjoy coloring and listening to me read. I read as much as I can to my kids. I believe reading to our kids is one of the best things we can do. One thing I love about homeschooling is the freedom there is in how we teach our kids about new things. I think one of the best ways to learn about anything is by reading books about it. Each week I check books out from our local library that are related to the Bible study we are doing and the weekly memory work we are learning.
We will travel the world, see the whole USA, and still be back home by the end of the day.
We have read this book called There's a Map on My Lap for the last several weeks now when we do our geography focus. My girls love it, and it's a great way to learn about maps and lots of things about geography.
East is this way, south is this way, west is this way.
The west is that.
Yeah, so we're turned around. So for us, south is that way, west is that way, north is that way, and east is that way. So we're going to sing our little song. Goes like this. Egyptian Empire, Egypt, upper and lower Egypt.
Then we play our geography dice game. This week we are learning about the Egyptian Empire. For this week I also added some review to our maps, places we've learned about in prior weeks.
And the Persian Gulf, and the Caspian Sea, and the Black Sea. Do you remember this big sea over here? Mediterranean Sea. The good Mesopotamia is that little orange yellow part in between the Tigris and the Euphrates River. Do you remember that little orange triangle?
Sumer.
Sumer! That was really close. Sumer. And then, this is Asia Minor, that light green. But we're gonna play a little game.
My girls switch off rolling a big die and they try to remember what the place is that is labeled with the number they rolled. Then I have them roll 2 or 3 dice and they try to remember some of the places we learned about in prior weeks.
Sweet.
Hattusa, Assyrian Empire, Black Sea.
Empire, Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Babylon, a Persian Gulf.
I come up with songs for each week to help my girls learn these locations. I hear them singing these songs throughout the day, both with each other and when they're doing their own things. It's so sweet to hear and such an easy and fun way to help them with the memory work.
Okay, our turn. Ready? Here we go. 5. You know that one. Lexi. You want to roll?
It's always a little chaotic, especially with my 1-year-old, but my goal is to do at least a little geography on Mondays, again instilling this habit. I love the block schedule approach where we focus on one subject each day. Geography on Mondays, community group on Tuesdays, history on Wednesdays, science on Thursdays, and other memory work on Fridays. By this point, my girls are ready to go play for a bit, and I try to clean up the rest of breakfast stuff. I'm also making some bread today for my kids. I make sourdough bread too, but my girls prefer this normal yeast bread, which is actually really easy to make. I love using my grain mill and wheat berries. I use hard white wheat and a little bit of either spelt or einkorn. For this recipe, I mill 970 grams of wheat berries, so I do a mix of hard white wheat and either spelt or einkorn. I do mostly hard white wheat and then 150 grams or so of the ancient grain. Then I add 1.5 cups water, 1.5 cups milk, and 84 grams of butter to a saucepan, and I heat this slowly until the butter is all melted. Then I add that mixture to my mixing bowl, and I add a little bit of honey, usually about 50 grams or so, 3 teaspoons of salt, and 2 eggs. Then I mix it until everything's combined. Then I add the flour to the mixture and mix it until everything's combined, and I let it sit covered for about an hour so that the flour is very hydrated by the water.
Out the door, down the stairs, past my friend.
My kids come inside and we have a little reading time. My daughter is loving this book called Out the Door by Christy Hale about prepositions. It's been awesome. We read it so much that now she has it memorized and likes to read it herself.
Around the corner.
After about an hour or so, I add the yeast to my dough. So I add 4 teaspoons of instant yeast, and then I knead it. So one thing I love about this KitchenAid mixer that I have is I can just put it on the setting for kneading and let it go. I don't have to do it by hand. I let it knead for about 10 minutes or so. I don't really time it. I just keep an eye on it and make sure the dough isn't creeping to the top of the mixer. And then I cover it and wait until it doubles in size, which is anywhere from 1 or 2 hours, sometimes shorter, depending on how warm your temperature is. Once it has doubled in size, I take it out and kind of flatten it out on my cutting board, divide it into 2 because this makes 2 loaves of bread. And then I just kind of flatten it out some more and fold it like I would be folding a package, like fold the sides in and then the ends in, and just kind of roll it back and forth in my hands to flatten the seams out. Then I do that with the other half of the dough, and then I put these little logs into 2 loaf pans that are lined with parchment paper, and I let these sit out covered and rise for another 30 minutes or so. And then I preheat my oven for 400 degrees and put them in for about 20 minutes, and they're done.
Who built the ark? Noah, Noah. Who built the ark? Brother Noah built the ark.
It's another morning for us, and we are starting the morning off again with our morning devotional time. We are singing from this awesome hymnal for kids called My First Hymnal, and my girls are coloring their Bible study activity pages. My 3-year-old is loving tracing her letters. Again, I love that we are getting in the habit each morning of reading the Bible and talking about what we read and doing some Bible study activities and singing together, praying together. It's just a sweet habit and routine to get into, and my girls expect it now. Our subject focus is history, and we are learning about the Romans this week. So my girls are coloring the Scribbler's coloring page and a coloring page from Amy Snyder Design. I love her stuff. I get it from Etsy. And we are also doing this mosaic activity. So I made these big letters that are the first letters of their names. And then my daughter this morning cut out lots of little papers for us to use. She really enjoyed that. tissue paper and normal paper, and they are gluing it on their letters to make these Roman mosaics. This was an activity from the Sandbox e-zine and CC Connected, and I just made letter mosaics for them to do because I thought it would be fun, and it was a hit. In the afternoon time, my daughter and I enjoyed playing this Roman sequence game where we had to get 6 in a row. So we rolled the die with different parts of the history sentence on it, and whatever we rolled, we found that on our board and marked it with our dot marker, and then we were trying to get 6 in a row.
The Roman Republic became, so now you get to choose.
I love playing games like this with my kids to practice the memory work. It's just really fun. It's good quality time with them, and it helps us review the memory work. So it's a win-win-win. I have this Roman sequence game and the mosaic template up on my blog. I'll link below in the description if you want to download them. They are free. I have lots of games and activities on the blog for each week of cycle 1.
Wow. I keep getting
Ooh, look, you're getting closer. Okay, Mama's turn. Oh, the Roman Empire. Ooh. Boop. Okay.
past the neighbors along the block, up to the light across the street. We love one another. This morning we are focusing on our 24 family way and our Bible verse. I try to go over this each morning with my girls, and we try to memorize both the 24 family way and the Bible verse together, and I love this habit too. These family ways are by Sally and Clay Clarkson. They are biblically based values. They are so good for children to learn, and I have picked Bible verses that go along with them, and also songs that help my kids memorize the Bible verses.
Major groups of invertebrates, sponges, flatworms, stinging cell animals, roundworms, mollusks, segmented worms. Yes, so you could connect that to vertebrate right there. Yep, just like that. Good job.
Today our subject focus is science, and we are learning about invertebrates. So I made this vertebrates invertebrates domino game that we are playing, and it really helps us learn which animals are vertebrates and which animals are invertebrates. I am using this memory work card that I got from Hope and Home Company on Etsy by Kimberly Veely. It's beautiful and it has a lot of different examples of invertebrates on it, so it's perfect to help us as we're just learning about this. You see any other invertebrates where he would fit a little bit better? Yeah, good job. Perfect.
He does have a backbone.
Yep, he has a backbone. He's a vertebrate, so we gotta connect him to vertebrate. I love forming these habits right now of geography on Mondays, history focus on Wednesdays because we have our community group on Tuesdays, and then science focus on Thursdays, and then Fridays sometimes we go on a field trip or we just focus on some other parts of the memory work. Right now, focusing on different subjects just looks like reading books and playing games, and I think that's how it should be, especially at this age. But I like forming these habits because we can expand on them as they get older, and we're able to dive deeper into what we're learning. Now I want to take you through our evening routine a little bit and our bedtime. Right now I am cleaning up our kitchen after dinner and making breakfast for the next morning. I've talked before in previous videos about how I make these muffins for my kids, and I just put them in these plates with some fruit and their multivitamin, and I just stick them in the fridge, and then they're ready to pull out the next morning. At this stage of life, any way I can make our mornings easier, I do. And right now, as I'm cleaning up the kitchen, my husband is reading books to my girls. So our baby, our 1-year-old, is already in bed, and our girls each pick out 3 books that they get to read with my husband. And they just love that time. It's really special time with him. And I enjoy just being able to clean up the kitchen and kind of prep for the next day. I've shown before how I like to organize the stuff we're doing during the week into different folders. Depending on if it's geography, it will go in the Monday folder, history will go in Wednesday, science Thursday, etc. And I divide up, our Bible study activities and stuff like that. So I'm getting the next day's stuff ready on the table so that when we come downstairs in the morning, everything will be set and ready to go. We try to keep bedtime really fun and special, free of discipline if possible, and just really sweet reading time. Now, my husband and I are both very tired by this point, so it's not always easy to do this, and sometimes we don't feel like reading lots of books right before bed. But we try to as much as possible because it is so good, and especially for my husband, it is really good quality time with them, and he's been working all day, so he hasn't really seen them. After my husband reads to them, I come up and I usually say goodnight to my 3-year-old first. She likes to brush my hair right now, which I am not complaining about. Then we do our blessings. My girls love this. I got these ideas from Justin Early, who wrote Habits of the Household. You should definitely read it if you haven't. But we do the squeeze blessing, which is praying that Jesus would wrap around your child all the days of their life while you squeeze and hug them. We do the bounce blessing, which is, Jesus, I pray that whoever your child is would bounce from blessing to blessing all the days of their life. And there's a couple more that we do. It's just a really sweet time and a fun habit to get into to give your child a blessing before bedtime.
Did a cruel man approach throwing buckets?
With my older daughter, we do the same thing, and then I'm also reading to her from the Pilgrim's Progress. It's a children's version. I'll link it below if you're curious, but it's great and she's loving it. And my 3-year-old usually wanders in and wants to read some with us too before bed. I hope you've enjoyed getting a peek into our homeschool week and seeing some of our weekly habits and our evening bedtime routine. Thank you for joining me. If you are enjoying my videos, please subscribe to my channel. I am posting 2 videos per week relating to homeschooling and healthy living. Also, follow me on Instagram. I like to post what I do with my kids throughout the week relating to homeschooling.